Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and today is Mother's Day. I need to mute my phone, but today is Mother's Day, and I just got back from seeing my mother, of course, and going to lunch with Katie and having a really lovely time. And I wanted to quickly show off my beautiful gifts my daughter got me because she is perfect, of course. Not that one needs a gift on Mother's Day, but certainly I'm not going to complain. And I love this. So this is the Cup of Destiny. So you can see it is I think it said it was based on like an Edwardian fortune-telling cup. It's a little bit, the paint's a little funky on one. It's part of it, but it just makes it look older. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. And here you can see this, and it goes in. There's a book all about this. I'll look at this a little bit closer later, but it's pretty awesome. I'm gonna definitely get like one of those plate holders so I can set it kind of like that on a shelf. But I'm actually going to give this a try. So I will do a separate kind of tea leaf reading video where I will kind of talk about this in the book as well as like attempt a tea reading. So watch out for that. But she did get me that, so I wanted to show you that because how cool is it? But this is what I'm so even more excited about because this is the Linestrider Tarot. This was one of the main decks that I was waiting for this year to come out. And turn this on, see if that helps. There we go. And it's here. I did not know that it was here. I didn't know it was in stock. She got it at Books A Million. I had no clue that this was out. So I'm so excited. I mean, I cannot even tell you. I was so excited to see this deck. I have seen the walkthroughs of this. Quilfin had done one. I will put a link to that in the description box below because, of course, it's been redone. This was an independent deck. Has a different back. Llewellyn picked it up and just put it out. It's not released in the UK, I think, until June or July. I just saw on Facebook. I didn't know when it was actually. I saw it on Amazon. We looked after we looked at it, and I was like, I didn't even know this was out. And so I'm like, so we looked it up, and you can get it on Amazon, but it says it ships in 1 to 4 weeks. So I don't know if it's just now hitting things, but it was on the shelf at Books A Million. And so I know that the back has changed, and I know that 4 of the cards have changed, but we'll look at I pulled those out, but we'll look at those when we get into the cards. The cardstock has obviously changed because it's now independent, or the cardstock has obviously now changed because it is Llewellyn, and it is the new Llewellyn cardstock. So, yeah, if I add the other cards, the same thickness of my animal totem. It feels pretty much the same. Yeah, it's the new Llewellyn cardstock. That's going to probably make it or break it for some. I don't care, to be honest, because I haven't had like the chipping problem. As you can see, some people have had problems with their edges. This is the Animal Totem, which was the first deck I had with the new Llewellyn. I've used this, not a ton, but I've used it quite a bit. And you can see I don't have any chipping or anything like that going on with the edges. It looks fine. I need to turn Facebook off mine. So anyways, I'm so excited about this. So yeah, it is that, I don't know what to say, but I know that they're talking about, definitely one of the corners is a little... they're talking about changing their cardstock, but I don't know. I mean, some people love it. I will say that once I worked with my animal totem for a while, it's not so hard to shuffle anymore. It really isn't, to me, isn't bad at all. It's thicker than I personally like, but it's not bad once, worked with it. And again, my edgings, they're not doing anything. I haven't had anything bad happening with these. Truthfully, my Llewellyn thin cardstock chips. You know, I definitely, the decks that I have of that have chipping, like my Tarot of the Hidden Realms. So the original cardstock had chipping on I get chipping along the border or in the edges of, say, like Tarot of the Hidden Realm and such like that, cause some chipping. So, you know, I don't know. You know, Llewellyn cardstock is definitely one of those things that people are on various sides of the equation on, both old and new. I'm just happy to have this deck, truthfully, so I don't care too much. I wish it was on the original because I prefer the original, but I will take this deck in whatever form it comes. So, as you can already see, the Fool. Oh! Okay, I'm going to put these up here for a minute. It came in their new box format because obviously this has just come out. So it's a little bit smaller box than normal for Llewellyn, and it has this insert. I prefer this over the other one for sure. The cards get a little bit stuck down in here once they're opened up if you stick them in, but I much prefer this than the original box. So that's that. So you can see we're talking about the Linestrider Tarot by Shiloh Thompson. I'm assuming that's Shiloh Thompson. It says, dance between the two worlds to find the answers you seek. Spun with soft strokes of vibrant color and intricate detail, the Linestrider Tarot features gentle yet evocative images that dance on the edge between magic and logic. With grace and innovation, Shiloh Thompson's captivating minimalist art will enhance your readings in powerful and profound ways. So you can see that it's like a combination of sketching and like watercolor there, and it's very white. The cards are very white based. They very much use white space, lots and lots of white space, with a very simple, gorgeous title, and then this like just graphic underneath. Let me see if they're all like that. It's just stunning. It's a lot of white space here, a lot of blank faces. There's a lot of blank eyeballs, which some people do not like and color in. I don't think I would try. Quilpin put pupils in a lot of her animals and it looks amazing, but she isn't actually as an artist. I'm not sure that I could pull off the same thing, so I haven't decided what I'm going to do about that. But let's take a look at the book here. Let me zoom this in. There was a book with the original, but it was quite thin. I want to say it was about 44 pages, and the font was microscopic. So I would have had a really hard time reading it. So this is a gorgeous, it is not the matte that I love in the Llewellyn book cardstock. It is more of a gloss. But again, that doesn't, I love the matte books, but this is a gorgeous book. Look at that. Got the High Priestess right here, and it's a stunning, look at that. It's a stunning book. So, I'll take it even without the matte. So we have about the deck, which is kind of starts in how I read on the back of it. It also does say that the Linestrider deck features a lot of animal imagery. Many of the important archetypes manifested as animal spirits. For example, the Hermit as a bear and the Magician as a monkey, are an important reminder to listen to nature and seek guidance in her voice rather than relying entirely on the cold intelligence of man. So you definitely see that in this, which is quite interesting because I said in my nails are horrific, so I'm really sorry. I may pause this before I go zoom in on the cards. But this has been a spring of animal energy for me, and this kind of carries it through. There are plenty of people in here, but she does really touch on animal as well as plant imagery. And she talks about that in the actual guidebook. So I will talk about that. Talks about handling the deck, reading with the cards. Exaltation of the aces she talks about. So readers who exalt the aces believe the ace is a card that flavors the overall reading rather than serving as a representation of a person, figure, or aspect of the query. So that some people, if they see an ace, they move it to the side and a new card is pulled to replace it. So that if the Ace of Pentacles shows up, then you push the ace to the side and then draw a new card in the future position. but read it with the energy of that ace. I've not ever heard that before. I might give it a try in this deck just because she talks about it. She also talks about the Tower trumping all. So it says that some readers believe that the Tower always manifests in present tense. So no matter where it shows up, its implications are for the querent's current position. So that's quite interesting. Although the effect this card has reigns supreme no matter where it falls, it is certainly at its most pronounced in the present position. I've never heard that before as well, but that's interesting. Reverse versus negative reading. So it says when you flip over a card, it may land upright or reversed. Many people choose to read reverse cards in a different, though not necessarily negative way. And she says she does read that. It also says the cards are almost never meant to be read individually unless you're using them in coin toss yes or no manner, which I would not recommend. So she doesn't even have a single card layout. Obviously, lots of people do one card draws, daily draws, but in terms of reading, her approach is it's never in ones. So in layout, she has a 3-card, past, present, future, or context, focus, and outcome. And her favorite spread, she said, is the 5-card spread, where he has past, present, future, potential, and then the question itself. That's her favorite one. She does talk about correspondences to astrology, numbers, and associated plants. She gives some information about what her associations are astrologically. She goes into the section on numbers, and she goes into a section on plants and how the plants actually impact that card. And then it goes to our cards itself. And we can see we have a full black and white image of the card. We have keywords. We have 2 paragraphs of conversation. And then we have it in its reversed, as well as astrological correspondences, number correspondence, and the plants that would be associated with this. So let's take a quick read of this. I know it's a bit long, but I do, and people do ask me to read so they can kind of get a feel for the voice of the guidebook. So keywords are journey, idealism, new adventures, innocence, decision, spontaneity, risk-taking, openness to new experiences. The Fool is a card of potential, new beginnings, and innocence. I was moved to draw him with an unfinished face and body because the card speaks of someone at the start of a mystery. At the start of a formative journey or experience. Who he will become is still a mystery. And personally, I think you can read this as male and female, given how she's drawn it. This card indicates that adventure and new opportunities await. The Fool is carefree, unburdened by fear or anxiety, even though he is taking a literal leap of faith with 1 foot on the edge of a cliff. He does not seem to mind if he does not really know what lies ahead. In most decks, the Fool is shown with an animal companion, usually a dog, but I've given him a kookaburra. Look at the kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. Merry, merry king of the jungle, he laugh. Kookaburra laugh. Kookaburra save some there for me. Yes, love kookaburras. The teddy bear of the sky. Kookaburras are known for their laughter and playfulness, perfect for the Fool, who symbolizes an innocent, happy nature that simply follows its instinct. In a reading, the Fool is the card that most represents the querent themselves. The tarot is ultimately the Fool's journey. Sometimes the Fool may represent another person. When the Fool shows up in the future position in a romance reading, it might indicate a new love interest who is young, fun, or irresponsible. The Magician and the Fool are great together as they are a scion of a time when the forces in your life will help you accomplish big things without having to lose your lightness of being. The Fool in conjunction with a travel card, the 8 of Wands or 2 of Wands, for example, indicates a time when it is advisable to step off into the unknown and embrace new adventures. In its reversed aspect, beware of irresponsibility, mad projects, and recklessness. Depending on the other cards in the spread, the message can be as gentle as an admonishment or a let go of anxiety, or as severe as a warning about reckless or mental instability in yourself or others. In the negative, he warns of unfinished or abandoned projects, insecurity, and doubt, or that a foolish or irresponsible choice has been or will be made. In extreme cases, the Fool may speak of madness, mental illness, or dementia. Be very careful when you see the Devil and the Fool in a reading together. What may seem like fun, carefree living can quickly turn into debt, addiction, and destroyed relationships. Astrological correspondence none. Numbers 0, 22, and 33, and associated plants are ginseng, cedar, rose, and geranium. So there we have the Fool card. So they have quite a bit of information about each of the cards, along with the, like for the Magician is associated with Aries, number 1, astragalus, vanilla, and rosemary. Let me see, in the Two of Wands has the minors seem to have the same amount of information, but we also have in the minors, we have numbers, not astrological correspondences, but numbers and associated birthdays, March 28th to April 2nd, and associated plants of basil. So that's what we have for that. Let me see at the back if there's anything. Conclusion, thank you for purchasing the deck, and so forth. So there's 274 pages, so quite a bit more information, I would say, than the guidebook that originally came with the decks, from what I can see on Quilfin's review. Again, take a look at that if you want to see the differences. And but there's quite a lot of info here, and she also seems to be referring to her artwork and why she chose to draw it that way, and that for me is quite something I really am looking for in a guidebook, especially with something new and unusual art. So I'm really happy to see that aspect of it. So let me go ahead and put these out here. Here's the backs of the cards. They have that sort of ink blot look. The backs of the original decks were stunning. They were bright, but I will say this, they were very rich purple and completely covered, and because the backs or the fronts are so much in use of white space, that they were a little bit heavy color for the feel of the deck. I do think that while I think that the original ones are so stunning, I quite like this in terms of cohesive for the whole deck. So there we have that. Okay, let me zoom in, and then I will be back to look at the cards. Okay, we are back to take a, I'll move that box, to take a closer look at these gorgeous cards. So again, here we have the Fool, which we already talked about, but things that stick out to me is I really love that we have the kookaburra here. We have very traditional, I want to point out that so far we see quite traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery here. We have the bag on the stick, we have the companion, now this is a kookaburra instead of a dog, but serving kind of as the same function. We have that as well. We even have the red feather from the hat, which is very Rider-Waite-Smith. And but we do, I think this is interesting here with the flowers that are kind of dropping off here. That's quite lovely. So, yeah, but still, for a modern, sketched, gorgeous card, there is quite a Rider-Waite-Smith connection. Like, it's not difficult to see that. So then we have the Magician, and this is one of the archetypes. Let's see, I need to not mix these with the ones that are different cards or have changed. There's 4 cards that have changed, so when we come to those, I want to make sure I point them out. Here we have the Magician, which is a monkey, right? So she talked about how there were some archetypal ones that have been changed. They have this to do with focus and goal attainment, learning, study, transformation. Let's see why she says, I would like to see this, if they say why she used a monkey here. He stands between the spirit world and humanity. We do have that traditional lemon scott above his head. Definitely the guidebook goes with good card pairings and bad card pairings. That, you know, if this pairs up with things, how it could change, what position it's in could change, whether it's a romantic relationship or question, how you might read this, and things such as that. So I'm quite happy with the guidebook so far. This one doesn't. Isn't really connecting to or in the guidebook, he is not saying directly why. Oh, here we go. For me, he manifested as a simian character, clever and capable of making things, able to craft tools and figure out new ways of doing things. He stands between the spirit and humanity. In one hand, he holds a staff raised toward the sky. In his other hand, in benediction, gestures towards the land. Above his head is the symbol for eternity. So we do actually, so she's addressing this specifically to this image. That's the point I'm trying to make. I really like guidebooks that address the specific image so that we can see their thinking. And she has this associated to Aries, the number 1, and astragalus, vanilla, and rosemary for plants. This is so stunning. I adore this High Priestess. You know, this is just gorgeous. And again, she talks about if you see the High Priestess surrounded by cup cards, if you see it this way, if you see it this way, that way, what this can make, if it's a male querent, if it's a female querent. So there's definitely, for both sexes, the feminine voice of the universe is what this is going to be giving back to you. So I think that's wonderful. The guardian of the unconscious realm. So I just think that I'm quite impressed so far with the guidebook that I've seen. She has it related to Virgo and Cancer. She see the ankh around her neck, the number 2, and associated with Peony, Verbena, and Heliotrope. So yeah, the plants are really important in this deck. I can see why Quilfin quite loves that. Here we have the beautiful Empress. And we can almost see, you know, there is nudity in this deck, but we can see with the bared breast, that does bring in, obviously, that idea for me, right away brings in fertility, nursing, that kind of thing, the motherhood aspect. Even though we don't see a pregnant body, it certainly brings that into alignment. The ultimate feminine archetype she talks about, Demeter, the goddess of fertility. It says it shows her as a fully developed woman, nurturing and peaceful, wearing a crown of stars, representing her connection to the cosmos, and that she drew her with a monkey and a tiger for animals that represent intelligence and playfulness, as well as the potential for ferocity when needed. So that's quite interesting, right? And then in terms of plants, let's just see. I know I can't do this for all this, but hazel, mistletoe, dong quai, and roses. Although we don't actually see any plants in this particular card. So yeah, I'm really impressed with, I'm going to stop. I know it'd be bad if I do this over and over again. Here we have the Emperor, who is being quite emperor-like, looks quite emperor-like. He's very, you know, holding the sword so resolutely, looking straight out of the card, and just looks resolute, looks like he's in control. I wonder what this, I'd like to know. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about that. It brings to me like fire energy into the card, which is gorgeous. Here we have the Hierophant, which of course we see as a bear. We also see that we can see the eyes that I was talking about. If you go and watch Quilfin's video, she put pupils in all of the animals that were pupilless, or most of them. And you know, it may or may not be, I'll have to talk to her about how difficult that might be for me or not, whether or not that's something that I do. I think it's sort of along the lines of the wooden tarot with the 3 eyes, that may be unsettling to some people. When I first kind of looked through it, looking to find out which ones were changed, I didn't seem to, it didn't bother me precisely, so I'll just have to wait a little bit. But she says that when she was making this, she didn't intend to depict a bear, but that he appeared because the spirit of the bear brings strength, confidence, and is associated with standing against adversity and taking action as well as leadership. It says the number 3 is repeated many times in this card. See if you can find them all. An indication of the Hierophant's dominion over the 3 worlds. So we have 3 fire symbols here. We have 3 circles under here. We have 3 fingers that are raised. There's probably more. But that's what I'm seeing off the top of my head. We obviously have 2 keys, which we see in the traditional Hierophant card. Here we have a beautiful, oh, and this is sage, lemon, and violet for plants, but there's not really any plants in the card. But it still gives you the the plant correspondences. Here we have a beautiful lover's card here, and she writes that she finds this as being one of the most complex cards in the major arcana. So I think that's interesting. It's Gemini and Libra for, that's interesting. I like that. That's for Gemini and Libra and for the Lover's card. The number 6, which is 2 times 3, which is my number. We have roses, patchouli, dragon's blood, parsley, and quince. I'm not sure if I've said that correctly. Let's see if it's going to talk about what kind. For her, it manifested as an avian, most likely because of the association with the element of air. At their feet are fruit and plants representing life, fertility, and happiness. There are 5 fruits on the ground representing 5 senses, indicating the importance of the sensual realm and its influence on pair bonding. So see, there's quite a lot of detail for what is quite a simple kind of minimalist card. There's actually a lot of symbology that is involved. A snake in the fruit warns of temptation or something kind of danger of deceit. The flames are for passion. So there are different details within these cards. So I definitely would say it's well worth reading the book. I intend to do so. Here we have the gorgeous Chariot card. I love this with the cards, the horses facing back. We have the strong woman standing in the middle. We have something going on here, which I can't entirely tell what's going on here. Says that the square at the base, we obviously can see the Cancer sign in there, but the square itself signifies earth, which is strength of will. Within it is the astrological symbol for Cancer, which is a sign associated for this card, and the laurel and the star crown for achievement. This is a fully developed character they're talking about. So again, great detailed imagery are discussed in the guidebook itself. I know, I'm sorry. I'm so excited about this. Here we have Strength. Gorgeous Strength card. Beautiful. Here we can see the woman that's here. We see the lion that's here. We see the infinity sign over her head, as is typical. She's wearing a white robe representing the Fool. The infinity over her head representing the Magician. So there's a purity of spirit, but at the same time there is also a degree of mastery, right? And so that's quite beautiful. This is a time to draw on your maturity of spirit, love, and compassion. Listen to your animal passions, but don't be governed by them. I love this Hermit card. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I chose the bear because of association with hibernation and caves. This bear, it says, is wounded. Look, as you can actually even see his ribs. But the wound is bringing forth new life. The hermit may indicate that a time for self-care and intense learning and growth has come. Virgo is associated, as is the number 9, and the star in the lantern is a 6-pointed seal of Solomon, which is in the Rider-Waite-Smith. So it says that when this shows up, it's usually the querent. Definitely gives a lot of reading advice, like when this card shows up in conjunction with, or that type of thing. So I'm quite impressed with this guidebook. I know I've already said that 20 times. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune, which is one of my favorite Wheel of Fortunes. I'm not generally fond of Wheel of Fortunes. I think this is gorgeous. I love that we have the signs versus the kind of stuck, animals or creatures that are on the four corners. I really like this. It's associated with Virgo, the numbers 10 and 11, and it's with jasmine, spearmint, and slippery elm. It talks about is the plants that's associated with it. These are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac representing stability amidst change: Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, and Taurus. The birds with their beaks touching represent loving relationship and life that remains as an anchor point while the world shift and spin around. So that's interesting. Gorgeous. Look at Justice. Now, Justice is one that I would not color the eyes in because I think it's very cool. It's like a blind Justice. You can also see that the, I didn't point that out, but let's point that out. They don't always have the number of the card. So it's not written down here what number the card is. However, I have noticed, look at also on her dress. Can you see that? There is actually a text written on the clothes of the High Priestess. I love that. But you can see we're not seeing the number, like the number 4. However, when we reach... I'm just seeing if I missed any. But see, here, no. Here we have the number 10 written down here. And here we can see 11 is up on the scale itself, as well as the sign for Libra. So there isn't a consistent number. We have the names down at the bottom. So Justice is 11, obviously, and Strength is 8 in this deck. And this is just gorgeous with the blind Justice. I think it is beautiful. And I really like what she said about it, which I can't keep stopping to read. Here we have the Hanged Man as a blue tiger reversed. She said she depicted a tiger because she believed that the Hanged Man is a powerful character that can spring into action when decision has been made. It's not a passive character. Cats, it says, can be turned upside down in midair without losing their sense of balance or direction. And the blue she has is the color of suspended breath or winter stillness. I mean, how gorgeous is that? Pisces, ivy, marigold, and kelp, although we don't see any plants in this one. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Here we have Death, which is stunning. I'm a big fan of the Death card, and I'm a big fan currently of Skulls. Me and Edgar here, best friends. Let's see why she talks about, if she talks about any of the actual... She said that this, for her, is about discarding dead weight, clearing away things that are preventing growth. She said that her illustration strayed far from the traditional depictions of death, but that it kept the important element of growth and the balance of old and new, dark and light. She strongly associates this card with flora, the idea of pruning or even raising crops in order to improve growing conditions and increasing harvest. And the plants that she associates is elderflower, blackberry, and periwinkle. Number 13, Aries and Scorpio. I think it's gorgeous, and I love it. Here we have Temperance, which is beautiful. I love this because we do get a bit of the androgynous male-female look here, where there's definitely a femininity and a masculinity that is encapsulated in one. At least that's what I'm seeing when I look at it, which I think is lovely. So this is, the Temperance card features a hermaphrodite angel, the child of Hermes and Aphrodite, indicating a balance between the genders. So I think that that's really beautifully, I think it's quite beautifully done also. It kind of puts the Tarot Illuminati hermaphrodite to shame. But so yeah, this is all about balance, moderation, these kinds of things, as well as healing. And we can see, obviously, we have the symbol here for fire. Inside the symbol of earth, she uses square for earth, at least in another one. So let's see. The square on the chest signifies earth, a sign of strength of will, and the triangle inside the square protects the feminine aspect by neutral law, by natural law. So it doesn't fire. But often you see fire and water being mixed. Here we have the Devil card. And when I first saw this, I thought I had like something like wrong with my card there, but that is part of it. We can see this extending up and some of this extending down. It's just part of the watercolor, but I did think I had gotten, you know, like some water or something was on there. This to me is quite, you know, beautiful. We've got the traditional idea of the devil with the horned god here, but at the same time we have two bound people, but their hands are free, so they can get out of these bindings around their waist without much trouble with that. So I think that that's also quite wonderful, and I highly approve of this. It does say that the figures on this were inspired by the erotic illustrations of an Italian artist, Riccardo Manelli. So see, I quite like that because she had an art note there. And I haven't looked closely at all of the ones up till now to see if there were more. That's the first one that I've noticed like that. So I quite like that. I can respect that a lot. Carnations, wormwood, mugwort, and lobelia for plants. I think that's a gorgeous devil card. I'm thrilled with it. This is a lovely tower card. We almost have like an Asian inspired top part. Yes, it says, I drew this tower with a nod to Japanese architecture. Images entrenched in my mind from the great films of Akira Kurosawa, particularly his war sagas that depicted great change and battles within empires. So yeah, so she's even putting like what inspired her to do the card, to go with that art style. And I really like this guidebook. Here we have the star card. Now, I will say that Quilfin's eyes on this card are stunning. It looks almost like a new person. I just don't think I can actually pull that off myself. So this is attached to Gemini and Aquarius, and its number is 17. And Jasmine, Dentura, Skullcap, Grape, and Bluebell are shown as the plants. We also have a stork or a heron of kinds here. No, an ibis. The picture bird is a sacred ibis representing the mind. The astrological sign of the star is Aquarius. How gorgeous is that? I mean, it's just stunning. Can you see? I don't know if you can see this, but like you can see that her legs are going through the surface of the water, but the line between the air and the water, the line between above and below is so fine that you're almost seeing in one picture what's happening above and what's happening below. So I think that that's just really gorgeous and representative of how this deck seems to function between the worlds. So the next we have is the moon, and again you can see an almost deconstructed moon, right? We've got the moon. We even have the falling yod pieces that we see normally in the Rider-Waite-Smith. We have the two towers kind of all I could think of is, what was that movie, 2000? I can't even do the music, but you know, that square thing is black is coming down and landing in the earth, that kind of thing. I feel like that's what those are. But we have the two towers, we have the wolf, we have the dog, and we do have the crayfish here, the symbol of consciousness. We have the pool of water that's there. So we have many of the pieces of what we see in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's kind of been deconstructed, but they're still all there, and I quite really like that. I quite really. Lots of information about moons appearing in the readings, what cards to pay attention to. Really fantastic. So for example, I know. The Hermit and the Moon together have you seek solitude. When appearing with the Hierophant, you might find solace and advice from somebody else. If it's with a strong female figure, there may be somebody else that can help you. Or I guess I should go back to here. If the Moon appears in one of my readings, she personally looks at any card that appears in the motivation position, the card that speaks of the reasons behind the question, as it can be very telling. If it's with the Magician or the Devil, there may be someone in your life trying to confuse or deceive you. These kinds of things. It really, she goes into a lot of use, like when using this card, how it relates to the other cards around it. Because as she said in the beginning, she doesn't see cards functioning all on their own as well as with other cards. So you can tell that in the way that she writes, and that's quite interesting. So now here we have a sun card. You know that I don't generally like sun cards. I actually really like this one. She acknowledges that this is a strange drawing for the sun. She says it's a heavy sunflower dripping colorful goo. It's like dripping out of it, and is being fed on by little creatures who are feeding on the goo that's coming out of here. She said, I wanted to depict the sustaining and life-nurturing power of light, as well as remind the querent that when you shine bright, others will flock to you. How neat is that? The sunflower is a traditional symbol on this card, and the other aspects highlight the sense of overabundance. So it's that sense of if you're burning bright, you are going to attract and feed those around you. So I really, really like that. Judgment, I think, is really interesting because of this mask here. Now, it's also holding what looks to be lilies. Let's see. Golden seal and marigold are the flowers associated with here, but let's see. Trumpet lilies. So it's holding trumpet lilies and a trumpet. The angel calls for an awakening. You must take stock of your life. You may feel called to change your life or open yourself up to new possibilities. This character manifested wearing a mask for me. The image speaks to transformation and absolution, a discarding of your masks, an old way of being, and a renewed exploration of your true self. So see how the mask is moving up? So it's that sense of it's time to remove the mask, remove kind of old ways of doing, and start fresh with, peel that off. That's pretty cool, right? Here's the World card. Again, not usually one of my favorite images in the deck, but I think this is really beautiful. We have the nod to the traditional here. Let's see, a herald in Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are represented as emissaries of the four elements, the four seasons, and the four corners of the universe. So we can see those here. Yeah, so I like this. It's quite traditional, but at the same time it's fresh. It's a lovely card. And I mean, it bespeaks of the traditional World card, I think. So then we get to our aces. Now, you know how I love aces. So we can see they're all animals. We have a fox for wands. We have an eagle, a crowned eagle for swords. We have a cat for cups, and we have a bunny rabbit for the Pentacles suit. So look at how beautiful those are. You have to admit those are pretty, pretty gorgeous. Now let's see the order she goes in. Cups, wands, because I want to maybe peek at birthdays and stuff. Swords, and Pentacles. I usually go in a different way, but I'm going to put them back in the way she does, just so I can easily find them. Okay, so here we have the suits, and as I said, in difference between them, seems to be a similar. She gives us some information about the suit of cups, and then she goes into the cards. Again, a large black and white image, and we have correspondences as being numbers, birthdays, and then again, the plants that are associated. So there's definitely a lot of information in this book about plants, if that's something that you're interested in. So here we have the Ace of Cups. I'm not going to go as, quick, slowly, because I can't obviously do that. Here we have the Two of Cups, the strength and beauty that can be created when two individuals unite in balance, respect, and harmony. How beautiful that is. There's a lot of blue tones to this deck, it feels like. Blues and purples. It's kind of, there's some pulling there, but there seems to be a lot of cooler tones to the deck. It's not an overly warm, so when it is warm tones, it stands out more. But I do feel, and I'm not saying that in a cold way, I'm just saying in a cool toned way, it seems to be a cooler toned deck, which I don't mind in the slightest. The Three of Cups is one that I'm not as fond of as others because I'm just not quite fond of the hats here. It's celebration, community, I get this. She was drawing and just kind of had a little party of animals. That she talks about why she drew it this way. It was just after having gone to a wedding and things like that. I mean, it's sweet. It's celebration. You get that from the card. It's just not my favorite because I feel like they're so powerful. The images to me are quite powerful. And then when you put the kind of party hats on the animal, it detracts a little bit for me personally. But because then look at this. Look at the Four of Cups. So... But this is more of a joyful card, so, you have to also let that energy come out. So it's not that I hate it, it's just not my favorite. This is stunning. Four of Cups. We do have some depression that's here, definitely turning inward, which I don't always go with the, depression for the Four of Cups, but certainly that sort of turning inward can be used as well as dissatisfaction. So I do like that because she looks kind of meditative, so I could read this as... kind of going inward and being stable inwardly, as well as the dissatisfaction. So I quite like that because I could use it either way. This is so sad of the Five of Cups. We have three little birds, eggs that have obviously been lost. And we have the two instead of the cups. We have the two that have remained. And it's time, he needs to grieve and then look to the ones that are there. But that's quite very evocative here and gorgeous. The Six of Cups, we have lemurs. I think these are lemurs. Yes, lemurs are playful and joyful, so she thought they were appropriate. Returning to familiar environment, childhood memories, seeing life through the eyes of a child. They have a playful spirit about them. We do have some more greens and yellows, so I think it's sweet. Here we have an interesting Seven of Cups. Wait, do I have any cups that... Yes, so we're coming up on two of the changes. Okay. Pull those out. So here we have the Seven of Cups, which I think we have like it's illusion. We have broken pieces, but in each of the pieces we're seeing those, like here's a crown here, here's a part of a dragon. So it's like all those things that we normally see in cups are in sort of broken pieces of glass. So how interesting that is that. Usually, she says, this depicts a person faced with many cups of mysterious objects. I chose to draw it instead using shards of broken glass to express the breaking of an illusion to regain freedom. So this is almost telling you what to do in the circumstances. You need to break through the illusion. So that's quite lovely. It's different. I had to stop and look at it, but I quite like it. Look at it. Now, see, now this one has a hat, but I like it even more than the other one, although I would have loved it more minus the hat. Oh, wait, we're not on that yet. First, we have to go to these, which are the two change ones. So these two the next two cards, the 8 and the 9 of Cups, have been changed from the original image. The 8 of Cups was an image that completely filled the image. It's a beautiful image, but it was kind of jarring to the rest of the deck because it was completely filling the image, and it was a different style art because of that. And so it has been changed to this one, which is quite traditional, packed up and ready to go. Let's see if she talks about it. It's a journey card, taking place. Nope, she doesn't talk about the old card. Sometimes we need to abandon our baggage before we can move forward. But yeah, it's just the basic. But I think it's wonderful. Very goes with the theme of the deck, I think. Doesn't feel at all jarring, and it works with the card as well. This is also one that was changed from the original, which again, it wasn't as filling up the card as the original of this, but it also was kind of different than the other. And so we have a cat here who has clearly eaten the canary, which, you know, isn't positive for the canary, but it's kind of good for the cat. It's about prosperity, fulfillment, and good luck. It says it's one of the most positive cards in the tarot deck. It's known as the wish card and talks about wish fulfillment. But there's a smugness to this card as well, a note of caution about the possible price for your prize. Much like a cat eating the canary he has been longing for, your prize may come at a steep cost to others. So, but he definitely is fulfilled, right? He finally got the canary. Oh, poor canary. So then the Ten of Cups. Again, this is marriage. These look like these are lovebirds, or that's what comes to mind about these. Yes, these are happy lovebirds. And so this is, you know, prosperity and things. And it has a little, almost like a black and white rainbow over the head. She says, I have difficulty drawing humans in a romantic context. It always seems so cheesy to me. It was much easier to illustrate the concept of this card using these little birds. That's too cute. But yeah, minus the little hats. I mean, I don't mind quirky hats in the Dreaming Way Tarot, but not so much when they're on animals. This is gorgeous. Page of Cups, which I just think is so beautiful. The Knight of Cups, we can see within here the horse riding, but we have the image of the fish laying over the top of it, which is quite interesting. Again, read the guidebook because it is talking about it. Beautiful Queen of Cups, probably one of my favorite Queen of Cups, and that's obviously on the front of the box, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful image of the Queen of Cups. And then we have the gorgeous Knight of Cups, which almost looks like a sunken statue of a king that's under the water, that I think is gorgeous. So, yeah, gorgeousness. That moves us into the Wands, the beautiful Ace of Wands with the fox. Now, Annika even colored in some light color into the fox so that it had some kind of orange or red tones to it. But yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. Two of Wands. The Three of Wands. Look at the Four of Wands. Very stabilizing there. I quite like that. And she does talk about those stags visualizing the future. So she does talk about why she chooses the different things. So I quite find this interesting. But what says, unlike most of the cards in the suit of Wands, which represent fire elements, the Four of Wands is tied to the earth, grounded by earth elementals, and as such gives the querent room to blossom and rest. So that's quite interesting there. But it is the element of solidity, stability, and security that we can see. And you definitely can see that in this card. Look at that. I think that's fantastic. Five of Wands. Definitely see conflict there. Six of Wands is accomplishment, recognition, feeling proud of yourself. You have this kind of statue standing there in victory with the laurel wreath. It's quite easy to read that, what that's supposed to mean. The Seven of Wands, look at that, really standing his ground. Oops. Seven. Look at that, competition. In the Thoth system, it says this is called Lord of Valor. It's about courage. It urges us not to deny the battle, the fear, or the fatigue, but to feel the fear and do it anywhere. It's about taking a stand, and he's up there taking a stand. I love it. Again, quite clear what it is. This one is interesting because, whoops, the next one, first let's go to the next one, because this is one that has changed. Here we have the Eight of Wands. I will say that the Eight of Wands in the original is quite gorgeous. I like this one too, but the Eight of Wands is quite gorgeous in the first one. they both have a feeling of motion. I think the other one may be a little bit more of motion, but it is still quite beautiful. So that's one of the ones that have been changed completely from the original. The Nine of Wands, I think, is interesting because we have this fox person here. We haven't seen any of that sort of humanized animals as yet. It says the Nine of Wands is a card that shows a man, or in this case, a man fox or a fox man, who is injured but still upright. He is standing in front of 9 wands. He's accumulated some things. La, 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 la. It doesn't say why she chose to put this as a man fox. You know, it's still a cool picture. I just think it's a little bit odd because we're really not seeing any other mixed, like humanized animals. But I do like the card. I love this. I've never seen a 10 of Wands that has been what looks to be a small child. Let's see what she says. She said, I illustrated this card with the character in an awkward, burdened pose. When we are at a place where our journey forward may mean leaving things or people behind, I think there's a feeling of awkwardness and weight. And it was that feeling that I wished to capture in this drawing. Even though change can be painful, it's a way to new growth, la 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 la. So it doesn't say that as a child, but I kind of get the feeling like it's almost a child. But there is a weighted feeling to this. I wish she was still moving forward a little bit because that's how I like to read it. But it's still a lovely card, and the burst of, or the color really pops in appropriate areas there. I really like how she's done the knight in this one with that kind of horse and then that slit of an image of a knight over the top of it. Oops, I forgot to put the page back in there. Here we have the Page of Wands. This is quite an awkward doing of this. I apologize. Here we have the Page of Wands, which is quite beautiful. We can see there's astrological signs here. The dragon, I mean, it's very powerful. Love it. Love this Knight of Wands. Love that slice of the knight back there, which I quite like. The Queen of Wands is interesting. I love the card, but I'm not going to lie, she looks a little bit vampirish. She looks a little bit creepy. Just a little bit. Not a lot. I like the card still, but there is a little bit of, I don't know. But she says that she is warm and loyal and, you know, charisma, a strong personality. Black cats usually included in any illustration or depiction of the Queen of Wands because they're usually associated with magic and occultism. But she says, I've included a dark cloud of ink in the drawing because there is a dark element to this card. Social, resourceful, and generous, this queen can be a powerful ally and strong leader. She is highly energetic, busy, and active. There is a little bit of darkness to this card, but I think it's more in her face than in the ink, but that's just me. Love the King of Wands. What else do you want me to say about that? It's just gorgeous. So there you have it. It's beautiful. Here we have the sword suit, of course, was my favorite suit. Beautiful Ace of Swords. I love the 2 crossed swords and the hooded I would say hawk. I'm kind of like, don't say the wrong thing. It says it shows a falcon. That's it. There we go. A hooded falcon. It's a powerful and swift animal who cannot move into action because it's temporarily blinded. So we need to be able to see in order to make a decision. I just think it's gorgeous. I adore it. Love this. So sad, right? So sad. It's about heartbreak. We have a stormy sky behind it. We have the birds here. Yeah, it's just very powerful and very painful for those birds. Love the 4 of Swords. That resting lion there is gorgeous. I really like how she writes. I'm getting sucked into the guidebook. I love how she writes. I love this Five of Swords. He is one. We have the person going off in the background. He has the swords, but there is a little bit of a feeling of defeat about this card. There's a weariness. There's not this exultant sense of victory. So I think this really powerfully evokes the Five of Swords feel there. Love the Six of Swords. Yeah, I just love the Six of Swords. I just love the Six of Swords. What else do you want me to say without reading the book? Here we have the Seven of Swords carrying off the swords. It's interesting because we do have a sort of carrying it off from battle, which we don't often see in the smoke rising here. But it's, you know, fairly Rider-Waite Smith, but I love this Eight of Swords. I mean, look at this. It says the Eight of Swords traditionally shows a woman tied up, blindfolded, and surrounded by a circle of swords stuck in the ground. The woman's bonds are loose, and the prison of swords can be easily escaped if she chooses to move forward. I wanted to be a little less literal in my version. I used the image of a loose knot to indicate the sense of confusion or bondage that the querent might feel, and a blindfold to evoke the idea that the querent either can't or won't see their way to freedom. Like the Devil card, the Eight of Swords often indicates self-imposed issues. Look at that. Loving it. Here we have the Nine of Swords. It's also called the nightmare, anxiety, being up at night and being anxious, those kinds of things. The fox looks up to the night sky with a haunted look on her face. She has forgotten that foxes are nocturnal and that the night is their natural place. Humans often rise to their fullest potential in times of adversity. This is your night. Try to embrace it. Then we have the very difficult Ten of Swords. This is very wild unknown feeling, right? Endings, portrayals, hurt, these kinds of things. She says that the image I drew for this card is painful for me to look at it. The wounded animal seems so alone. I can almost picture him lying in the snow without even the comfort of trees around him. Oftentimes, our darkest periods must be passed through alone. How sad is that? That's really sad. That's really sad. And then here's the Page of Swords, which was out of... This is my least favorite of the pages. But we have... my pages are all drawn as young woman, though this page manifested in a more gender-neutral way. This particular page has a more unisex style and clothes. This is about messages or messengers. So this one is supposed to be a little bit more gender-neutral. So that's good. I like that. Although maybe it would have been nice to have them all gender-neutral. That would have been kind of neat for the pages. Here we have the Knight of Swords. Love it. Very muralistic. Of course, we have that circle here. Okay, here we have the Queen of Swords, which is, of course, beautiful. I love swords. I love Queens of Swords. And I love Kings of Swords, and I really love this. I like when she takes slices of color and things like that she does. It's quite beautiful. And that moves us to our Pentacles, in which we have the beautiful, sweet Ace of Pentacles. Not my favorite. This is probably the second one of my ones that I'm not too fond of, but it's a juggler. He just doesn't look like he's having any problems juggling those two. And I just think of more weighty juggling and not being able to quite handle things. But, you know, I can live with it. But just compared to some other cards, it's just not my favorite. So that's all. Three of Pentacles. Love this. I think it's gorgeous. Now, somebody was asking today about the Pentacles, 3 versus the 8. So let's just take a look at those just to see what they have here. So it says that the Three of Pentacles usually has a young laborer, and she wanted to use ravens because she's astounded by how clever and industrious. This card speaks of having the skills to bring your plans into the real world. So this is diligence and hard work and teamwork. So there's 2 crows here. Sometimes we see 3 things, but it's about working together. Whereas the 8 of Pentacles, let's go grab that. is more about craftsmanship and skill and accomplishment and hard work, but not in the sense of a teamwork. And so let's take a look here. So we have her on her own, and she is crafting things and working on things and accomplishing things. So it seems to be, I think the question was along the lines of what's the difference between these two. And I think a lot of the differences between the teamwork and the doing it ourselves. And the 3 almost is like you have what you need. You just have to work together. And the 8 is about diligence and hard work. Having skills to bring your plans into the real world. Your labors aren't in vain. Like, keep working and then you're going to see rewards for your work. And the 8, sorry. So that's the 3. Here we have the 4 of Pentacles. I think this is quite interesting. We normally see a really grasping, grasping at 4 coins. And I like what she says here because it shows a character holding her material possessions. The character clutches her wealth, but it is removed from her town behind, so she's away from the town. She's kind of removed from her community because of it. It says that the 4 of Pentacles is positive and negative. It speaks of prosperity and wealth, but it warns of being alienated by what you have. So that's interesting. It's a good omen for seeking wealth and success, but just beware of that double edge. Here we have the 5 of Pentacles, which I will say most of the eyeballs, the blank eyeballs, don't really bother me. This one does a little bit more than all the rest. It feels a little zombie-ish. And I guess that's because a lot of the people actually don't have so much of the blue. I mean, there are some, but a lot of the people do have pupils. Whereas this one obviously does not, and she just looks so sad, but it's not supposed to be cheery. This is about illness, injury, loss of belief in oneself, financial loss, that kind of thing. But it does say that help is near if you are in need of you. That's what the window always represents in the church. So this is very much like the 5 of Pentacles we normally see, but we're really zoomed in on the woman in the crutches here. I love this 6 of Pentacles. Look how sweet that is with the little bird and the little scale and giving little foods to the rat and to the blue jay down there. How cute is that? I love it. I love it. Here is the 7 of Pentacles. So this is interesting. Let me see here. So the 7 is about hard work and effort and long-term success. So see, he's built his nest. Here is a bower bird. It's just planning and old-fashioned hard work that the 7 Pentacles represents. This isn't a get rich quick. It's the kind that works hard and to build foundations. How beautiful is that? Here we have the 8 of Pentacles, which we talked about. And then the 9 of Pentacles is another card that was changed from the original deck. I personally like the first one better. I like there's 4 cards that were changed. I still really like the 8 of Wands, but I like the 8 of Wands in this one as well. This is the only one that I really, really like the first edition more than the second edition. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this one, but the other one is just gorgeous. So here we have the 9 of Pentacles, which generally we have has some type of raptor bird on the shoulder. It's abundance, it's success, it's, all of those things that we see of the 9 of Pentacles. This works beautifully, it's just I really like the other one. Here we have the 10 of Pentacles, which of course we have that sense of family, happiness, home. I do like that we have an older couple here. They've had success through their life. And I really like this. They've built a life for themselves, and we can really see that there. Now, the Page of Pentacles, as we saw, is quite it doesn't really talk about, I'm just skimming this here, because this is about new beginnings, prosperity, and good luck. It's a card of beginnings, inspiration, and being and creative project, earth and prosperity. But there's really nothing here that talks about her sensuality, but this is really is quite a sensual card. because she's not just nude, but then she's got the cape and the way she's got the garters here. She's got almost like a fruit, forbidden fruit as such in her hand. We have a monkey down here, but this is one card that she's really not talking about why she did it this way, which most of the other ones she does. I wish this one she had because this is one that I would want to know why is this a little bit different than I would generally think of seeing with the Page of Pentacles. And it's not that I mind it, I would just kind of like to get a peek into what she was thinking about because she doesn't talk about it, whereas normally she does. Here we have the Knight of Pentacles. I love it. Gorgeous Queen of Pentacles. Look at her tattoo. Isn't that beautiful? And then the stunning King of Pentacles. Love this very, very, very much. So let's zoom back out. That's all of the cards. I love this deck. I really do. And for the most part, other than that being a little bit let down by the Page of Pentacles, for the most part, I find the guidebook to be really great in terms of letting us know the whys and the hows and what's going on in the cards, which is, I think, fantastic. So you can see they're a little bit stiff. This is the new Llewellyn cardstock. Again, with my animal totem, I have started to feel, them coming together a little bit better and getting easier and easier to work with. So I'm assuming that's going to be the case for this one. I also have not found the my animal totem to have messed up edges. So I'm also hoping that to not be the case for this one. I still prefer the first edition, or not first edition, the old Llewellyn cardstock, but that's just me. It's nothing, I just like a thinner cardstock. But this actually is not bad feeling. I'm tempted to silver the edges of this one because it is such a cool palette. I obviously don't want to color because it's all white, but I'm very tempted to silver the edges. Or really pale blue, maybe a silvery blue if I can find something like that. Give this a real good shuffle. I can always cut some out. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at her. This is her primary reading that she uses is 5 cards. So let's take a look at that reading so we can see. Very Rider-Waite-Smith. There are some differences. There are some nuances that have changed. But for the basis, I think you can certainly see a Rider-Waite-Smith base. She does reference some Thoth cards in the guidebook. But again, I think overall I would call this Rider-Waite-Smith based. So let's take a look at this. So this is a 5-card cross. So I'm going to use this for a person who is really struggling with a work issue and is considering switching jobs. And so I think that might be a good one for this. So let's take a look. So we have the past, the present, and the future. We have the question that's been asked, or what's that situation there, as well as the potential. This is, of course, about the idea of shifting jobs. So this is quite interesting because we have here, in the past, we have the High Priestess card, which is interesting just in terms of influencing the situation. We have that sense of diving deep, of kind of going inward, that idea of hidden knowledge that's written on her actual cloak there. We also have... we have cup cards? No. We also have 3 in a row of major arcanas, which is interesting there. Let me see if I'm just skimming to see if it talks about this with the Devil card. No, because she does talk a lot about if it shows up with certain ones. So I wanted to see that it says answers to recent dilemmas will come through your intuition and inner voice. It's almost as if, you know, in the past the person has listened to their gut instincts and their ideas about a situation, but currently that they haven't. They've abdicated that power, and they're kind of running off of reaction versus really listening to the instinct and listening to their intuition. They're kind of in a position in which they're just reacting, and they have given that power over to somebody else currently, and that's really causing the situation to be more than it needs to be, more stressful than it needs to be, more. It doesn't mean that there isn't an actual issue there, but it does mean that perhaps it is, this is very hard to see with this, but too much light there. You know, that may be amplifying the situation, and that this person needs to take their power back. Which leads to the future position of the Magician, and the Magician is all about your power, right? It's all about having everything that you need at your disposal to manifest what it is that you want. So, you know, in the past, listening to your intuition, now you've abdicated your power, and it's time to be taking that power back, this would say, in this particular situation, right? And it's interesting because we have the Three of Cups here, and she says about this particular position, let me go back here, what she said about the bottom one. It represents the motivations that led to the situation. So that would say that this is the Three of Cups, but it's the Three of Cups in shadow, right? So that's, I don't do reverses, but if a position is what is the motivation, what is it that's got us to this point here, and this is a point is in a very toxic environment and work, then that tells us that the Three of Cups can't be upright. It needs to be in shadow, right? So if we look at the Three of Cups in shadow, we certainly have the reverse of celebration, the kind of anything that has been fun or wonderful regarding work isn't there anymore. There isn't a sense of camaraderie. There isn't a sense of any joy in this position whatsoever. And so in moving forward to manifest that and going out and finding a job in which that is there, if there's nothing that can be done to fix the current one, we do have the Six of Wands here, which is obviously quite successful and quite an excellent outcome card. Certainly given the situation, given how things were in the past, this card, the way that the progression of this that I just talked about here, this certainly seems to indicate that this may be the right direction for them to go in, that they simply This certainly indicates that this would be a good direction for them to go in if by doing so they are doing it out of taking their own power and making their own decisions versus sort of abdicating it and simply just leaving. And so that would certainly be something that would be on the table, whether the question is maybe do you take back your power and fix the situation that you're in, or is this simply a job that's kind of past its prime and it's time to move on? Either way, the important thing is that, and the true victory, I think, comes from sort of a regaining of the personal power in the situation, a regaining of listening to your instincts, which in this case are saying that this is simply probably isn't something that I love doing anymore. This isn't something that needs to be continued with. This isn't where I should be. And so if that of moving on to another job comes from a place of instincts and for trusting your inner voice on what you should be doing, that's what's going to push you in the right direction, not in abdicating that power and that choice and that to somebody else, or even to a reactionary or to an emotional response, versus really digging in and figuring out, knowing within yourself, manifesting within yourself what direction that you need to go in. So even with a tarot reading, as I always say to all of my clients, that this just points you and says, this is the direction things could be going in if you make these decisions or if you don't. If you like that, keep making decisions taking you there. If you don't, start making decisions taking you away, but the power still lies with you, and that's quite clear with this card here, in quite a beautiful way. So I think that that's cool. You know, that's a really lovely example reading there. So I'm quite excited about this deck. Like I said, wonderful Mother's Day present. So on top of just being a wonderful deck by itself, I think it's also a beautiful, beautiful deck with extra specialness now because it's, you know, a gift from my beautiful daughter. That's just to see how they might look. Let's just lay a couple more. We have the Fool, Temperance, and the Lovers. Lots going on here with the major arcanas, I have to say tonight. Really liking to come out and play here. How beautiful is that? We'll just pull some random Two of Cups. The Death. Look at how gorgeous these are. I mean, these really are just stunning cards. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be playing with these. I really am excited to be working with these. I do see myself actually using these. I like the clean white space. I like the minimalist feel, but there's not a feel of minimalism with the symbology, and I'm really looking forward to reading, actually sitting down and reading the whole book, as I think there's a lot to be said for that book that's going to be quite interesting. So I will try to check back with you after working with this for a while and having completely read the book, but I think this is going to be a great experience, and as a deck, my initial feeling on this deck is that it is one that I will actually be using to read with. It's quite Rider-Waite Smith based, and at the same time, there's something new and fresh about it, and there's a power in the minimalism and the white space. I don't have a lot of decks, if I'm trying to think of any deck that I have that utilizes this much white space, and it's quite refreshing. So there you have it, a look at the gorgeous Linestrider Tarot by Shiloh Thompson. Again, I do in the UK, and apparently it's June, I think June-ish when this is supposed to be coming out. I do see it on the US Amazon, although it looks like there's maybe some delay in getting it, but it does. I'm just randomly, you know, filling up space. But anyways, I do, so it's coming, and it may be one that you can still order. It just might take a little bit longer to get to, maybe while they're waiting for them to get in stock. I'm not entirely sure, because I did not expect to actually see that this was out for sale. So there we have it. I hope you all have a wonderful night.